And that's the best part working in a team, that you're not on your own and every member counts.
Peak, the innovation talk by Ekipa. Peak is an in-depth eye-to-eye exchange between equals with which we want to deliver knowledge and impulses for you to benefit from. Our founder Justin talks to guests about innovation, digital transformation, and the potential of the digital generation.
In today's episode, I was talking to Yashvir Chawla. Yashvir has been participant in a couple of our challenges and has also been part of the winning team of our Innovation Day together with ENBW. Together with Yashvir, I'm talking about how to build a fast prototype, which tools to use to build a prototype, and how to work together successfully with a new team. Have fun with this episode. Welcome, Yashvir. Welcome to Peak, our innovation talk by Ekipa.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for letting me in.
I really appreciate that. So, starting with our picky questions. Number one, how would you describe innovation with just 3 words?
Well, the first thing would be that it's demanding. Second, saves a lot of time. And third, amazing.
Demanding, saves time, and amazing. That's great to hear. Which everyday problem would you like to solve with an innovative technology?
Number one, the way we interact with the regular things we do, be it technology or be it out of technology. Number two, which is highly important, is the environment and the impact we are doing with each and every effort, be it the use of electricity to, be it the use of transportation, to everything that we do, and even the clothes we wear. And third and most important, which I think innovation can bring in, is to improve our lives. The way 50 years before, when telecommunication was not there, and the way it is so easy and accessible now, saves a lot of time and effort and makes life more better and comfortable for everyone around the world. Be it me, a student sitting here in Göttingen, or a farmer working on his field and trying to communicate with his dealers for the products everyday needs. So I think that.
All right. What was your recent post on social media?
It was the share of this talk, which Ekipa announced with a lot of that if there are any incoming questions, we are happy to cater them. And I shared it further in my group that if my group or my network has it, then I would love to answer them or try to.
Yeah, and we indeed collected a lot of questions, which we'll talk about later on in this talk. What do you prefer, time pressure or no time limits?
I prefer time pressure, but it's important to have a right balance. If the time pressure is for a limited time, it works. But if the time pressure is unlimited time, which has no deadline, then it's the worst.
All right, next one. Digital or analog?
Digital.
And the last one, learning the theory or learning by doing?
Learning by doing.
All right. Regarding you as a person, Yashvir, I think you have a really interesting background, actually. So you started doing your bachelor's degree in a very usual topic, business administration, in India, actually. And then you studied or are currently studying your master's in Göttingen in Germany. And compared to the more, let's say, usual background in your academical career, you have a more various background regarding your fields of work expertise, let's say. So you worked in graphics, in interface design, in UI, UX design. You have some experience in digital marketing. And it seems like you have a more varied topic there than just in your studies, which is more usual, more classics, let's say. But I can imagine personally that you also gathered a lot of experience in these different kinds of fields in your practical work. How do you find your focus when you start working or when you look for a new opportunity to work on?
Well, you're right. The experience or background I have it has a lot of variety. I would say that I am master of few but jack of all trades. It basically is because of my curiosity. I still remember the first time I got a glimpse of digital era, which was through a game called Counter-Strike. People were playing it in a cyber cafe, and the kind of I would say, experience I had the first time looking at something or the potential of digital back in 2007 or 6 was for me very amazing. And that drove me into knowing it more and more and more. And I feel learning is something that never stops. Even if I worked in India for over a decade and I came to Germany, was to relearn and to grow and to understand how I can do the things better. So this is the reason, the curiosity, and what followed was the reason of me learning a lot of things. Now coming to the second part of your question, which is how I'm able to keep up the focus with the things I do while I'm into a lot of things. Well, whatever things I do are first digitally, and second are depends or revolves around the basic internet consumer. So, for example, a student like me goes online and, of course, spends a lot of time on Instagram and social media channels, browses through apps, websites. So, to actually know my customer better, I cannot know it without actually uh, exploring into a lot of variety of topics that a person goes through. So I feel privileged that I actually got an opportunity in my previous time to explore myself, and that's the recommendation I would give to anyone, that it's good to have a focus, but it's best to try your hands on as much things as possible so that you don't regret later. And this, especially this time, which is more flexible, and you can actually try without harming yourself, because you have your opportunity cost is not that high comparatively, which we will have in our 30s, 40s, 50s. So, and we are very fast learners. We can, I mean, I think youngsters have more than 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
As soon as we start getting old, that 24 hours a day becomes really hard limit. You have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to do a lot of things. But while in the university days, we are doing so much multitasking, we don't even realize. And people often ask me, are you sure you have 24 hours in a day? And I'm like, yes, but the things are, we don't have those many responsibility. The priorities are flexible. We can make best of our time, especially while having fun. So I think that's the best part, curiosity and fun, that drove me a lot of things. And I keep up my focus by thinking about the user as me, or as a person who is a digital knave, going through a lot of things, and what can be their challenges.
That's really interesting, and I would like to come back to your core statement that I could hear from everyone, everything that you just told me. What I find really interesting is the fit between. So, or let me just start at another point. What I personally think is that behind everyone's career path or journey, or however you name it, there's, in the best case, something like a passion, right? So if you have something like a passion where you can focus on, it's, from my point of view, the best case. And what I understood from you is that you have something like a passion for learning, right? And a passion for curiosity and learning new things and getting to know new things. And at the same time, what you just told me is that your focus regarding your working stations, for example, is the usual, the normal, the classical internet user. How does these two worlds fit together? Where's the fit between your personal passion, the learning and the curiosity part, and your working or professional focus, the internet user?
Well, I would say my passion, which is learning new digital skills, or would be learning into, for example, I started actually into the digital era with the profession of graphic designing. To that, when there was a point where I had the opportunity to learn open source platforms like WordPress, HTML, CSS, to a point where now there was a need in the company I was working for a digital marketing manager at a small scale level for very basic projects. So I was not a kind of an official profile over there, but I had the opportunity to actually learn while doing it. As I already said, that's my preference. So I would say that this is what I learned, and how it impacts the normal user is that I think whatever the innovation are there in the past, let's say 10 to 20 years, it all revolved around the basic need, or a basic internet user who is not too advanced, who is not too naive, who is someone maybe new or is willing to learn more. So when I constantly learn more, I get into the mindset of the internet user who is actively one of them is defined by someone who is ready to learn constantly. That's why we don't have one Android all year long. We get upcoming features, and there is no one telling us. There are no computer classes, Android classes, or tutorials that user follow. They learn by doing. So I believe that the coming trend, especially in innovation or IT, is learn by doing, which in fact is being adapted by the naive internet user. So I find myself to be a good example, and when I explore and learn and I have fun, I can reflect on myself, and then I can try to adapt that in my work, be it crafting user interface designs, be it crafting user experience design or learning them. I will also would love to share in further talk regarding some tools that I use, which maybe give a concrete relationship to this particular idea.
Yeah, sure. We will talk about this later on. So what I see is in your what you just told me or summarized maybe that behind the evolvement of the internet users, there are always new challenges, right? That you can take advantage of and learn new things out of it. So since all the internet users are evolving and since the needs are changing from those users, and I think this is not just valid for internet users but for other users as well, you will always have the chance to learn something and to get some new insights. Regarding your focus, what I understood is that you have a certain focus. We talked about this internet user, but I can also imagine that your focus changes from time to time, right? And if you mastered, for example, a skill, or if you became an expert in, I don't know, user interface design, maybe you get curious and want to learn another skill. Maybe you can share some insights with us on how this happens. How do you realize for yourself, okay, now I have the feeling for myself, I mastered this skill, or I got something like an expert or professional in this skill, and now I want to learn something else?
Sure, I would like to give that insight. I think that's an important topic because I have seen myself evolving from a graphic designer to a web designer to a UI designer to someone who was interested and did some digital marketing campaigns. I think this learning happens when there is a drastic change in the environment and also with regard to, I would say, the requirements that we get. It heavily depends, I would say 60% it depends on the outside world, how we are getting the requirements, while 40% depends inside what we actually like and what we actually don't like. Because let's say when I got into this digital industry, I actually was inspired by a story of a girl who was just 12-year old and a web designer in India. So I was like, okay, so web design seems to be like something which definitely can be understandable at my that kind of intellectual level at which I hold at that moment, and something that I really wanted to curiously know. So I got into graphic design and web design, and certainly I understood that whenever we go into some specialization, we always have a path to choose. So I had a moment where I had to either choose technology and go into development, or I had the path to go into marketing and maybe perhaps go into digital marketing or learn about the hidden areas which I have not touched yet but are really important in the digital industry. I actually got the opportunity to try out both more, but I went or selected the marketing part at that moment because that allowed me to go or think outside the frame of mind I was always in, working as a person who is maybe creating graphics, as the person who has the requirement and translating those requirements into creatives from looking at the user's perspective, what they are actually looking for. Maybe the requirements that we have doesn't match with what users really need. So I would say that this transition happens with first what we get as an external requirements. For example, when iPhone launched, it actually gave a boom to the mobile industry, and the user interface and user experience really has a milestone over there with the launch of iPhone. It changed the way we all use our phones, and hence there was a need of user interface and user experience design, a need to work on that and enhance that. With my passion, which I found for doing something which actually shows a lot of value and work, I can be someone who are constantly doing something and can be patient enough to see the result in 3 years, 4 years, while some people like me, actually the profile I actually am, or I understand myself as a personality, is someone who need to do something and need to see the results faster. not 1 year, but maybe 5 months or 6 months. I found the efforts which I did in digital marketing to be really giving more results like that, wherein if I learn something and run a campaign for a small business, I would see the leads happening and how it's happening and what can be optimized. And I could directly help the people I'm adding value in. Now, if I'm doing or learning user experience design over here, with each change, even addition or update of a color or a button, movement of some items, it at the end reflects or gives an impact on the bottom line. It impacts the user experience. It helps creating the product better and thus impacting, the bottom line of the company. And maybe by not actually doing something that only has a business side, but actually by helping the customers reach their goals faster.
All
So
right.
that's what I think is what I really like and follow.
I see. So what I can hear from your answer is that you always try to see different perspectives, right? You look at also some market changes or some changes in the environment that impacts actually some technologies or some topics that you might be interested in. And you see a topic where there's a good timing, where you have some different perspectives that are willing to focus on this topic. Then you say, okay, now that's a good timing. Now I'm willing to really better understand this topic, this field, this technology, this I don't know, and then to do a deep dive into this topic and try to master it, right?
That's right.
That's great to hear. Wow. Regarding your professional background, maybe I have one more question regarding this topic because I find this really interesting. For myself, I've been working for the same company, for my own company, for now the last 3 years actually, and of course we grew a lot. We have some new team members working for our team, but the self organization actually kept almost the same throughout the whole 3 years. And I personally believe that your self-organization is really crucial to master on whatever you are working on. And because of that, I would like to gain some insights about your self-organization, because you worked in a couple of jobs, you worked in a couple of topics as well. We already talked about that. How do you do your own self-organization? Which tools do you use? How do you organize yourself? How do you organize your time management? Maybe you could share some insights on this question.
Sure, great question, Justin. I mean, self-organization is indeed one of the most important aspect, not only for an individual, but actually also for the startups and companies. Because if self-organization of individuals are not good, trust me, gone are the days that there were managers to micromanage oneself. And now it's a time that everyone has the flexibility and has the ability to micromanage themselves. So I would love to share I would say my version of things that works for me. There can be thousands of tools nowadays, but I use two kind of tools. One, I'm going to tell you the technical tools, which I think are pretty much everyone knows, but that's what I personally prefer. And second, the real life tools, which are not technical, but last forever. So the technical tools I use is, I'll give you a real life, real scenario right now. So let's say I am working on a hackathon and I need to self-organize myself. I would start with one of the most crucial thing, which is from starting to the end of the event happens, is communication. So first thing is I would use WhatsApp group and Google Meet for online virtual meeting. It helps me or helps us as a team to put everything at one go. Even if it's a two-person team, I prefer having a WhatsApp group rather than one-to-one chat to just differentiate the communication of work and the personal ones. Then Google Meet for or Zoom for video conferencing. Second thing I think is very important is that whatever documents, files we share are stored at one place, which are super easy to accessible, and we can just even upload from a mobile or desktop. So I prefer Google Drive for it. And then we have the same things. Third, and the most important and latest tool, which everyone is now using and hearing about in design thinking, it's like Miro board or Mural. It gives us so much ease of access when it comes to people working on it, not just because of the power of collaboration, but the design frames or the structure they already provide, so people can stick to them rather than having a free flow discussion, which by the way is also possible, but with the structure and time frame and some moderation, which basically boosts the productivity of that particular part.
How did you learn to master Miro or Mural? Because we also use this one or these two tools, not just for external workshops but also for internal workshops. And when I first got to know about, especially Mural, I prefer Mural over Miro, but I think both are actually almost the same tool with the same features. It was really hard actually to really master this tool because there are so many features, right, and so many functions. And the first impression is, okay, it's completely chaotic. I don't really see the core product in it. And I personally had really difficulties to learn and master on how to use this tool. How did you learn it? Was there someone who taught you how to use this tool? Did you do some e-learning videos, or was it just like learning by doing?
Well, if you ask me regarding how I was introduced to these tools, well, then there was a formal way in my for my internship. Someone introduced me to that tool. But the reason I think I am learning it, I won't say I've mastered it because there are so many new features. I'm just learning by doing it, is because there was a concept in my management studies which is very important. It's called mind mapping. And when I looked at Miro, I looked at it as a big white board, and I could see that I could actually do everything on it. Then I realized that while I can do everything on it, I actually have some structure and tools to help me. For example, when we go for mind mapping, we start with something at the very center, which can be the objective we are trying to achieve, and draws out the branches. In different tools, I would say the best alternate that I had was a normal pen and paper. But when I went to that tool and I could zoom in, zoom out, and do everything and use those tools and stickies to self-organize myself, that was the first accomplishment I could do, was to prepare a mind map. That made me realize that there are so many possibilities, and also the templates that they had. For example, the first task I had in my internship, which was to create user personas, I could do that over there. That gave me a really good structure. We used that in the classes, so they were also formal training. But the reason I really personally was interested in it, and I'm saying it on this talk right now so that others can learn it, is that it gives you freedom. It gives you something which does not restrict you like a Word document or a PPT, which comes their predefined format. This tool is something which just gives you a blank canvas, and you can use it as simple as a piece of paper to something very complex like preparing some content flow or process flow very easily, and most importantly in a collaborative manner, so everyone can do it with each other.
I see. That's really interesting to hear, Yashvir. I personally could experience on how good you work with Mural actually when you were part of one of our innovation days, right? And that's where we got to know each other indeed. So you participated in our innovation day together with EMBW. Just to share some insights, EMBW was, if I remember it right, looking for new business innovations and new business cases in the field of smart home and working from home technologies and all the infrastructure and also IT security issues that come with it. And you were one of the 8 innovators competing against each other in 2 teams. And what I found really inspiring on this day was on how fast you could adapt to this new environment and how fast you could develop first prototypes. Because if I got it right, you just had 9 hours, right, from getting to know your team, working on ideas, choosing the most promising ones, elaborating them, and preparing a pitch. How did you handle this pressure?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, first of all, I really admire the format, and I would say having such kind of time pressure is good. It has both pros and cons, which I would like to share. I would say the self-organization, what I explained regarding with the technical tools was, evidently played an important role because we had no time to waste. It was just 9 hours and every minute literally counts. Then I would say there were some soft skills or real life tools which I always use, which helped me do it. So I would always ask them questions. I would show my interest in whatever topic we are doing and how basically I can add value. And I would always ask feedbacks. And to self-organize myself, I would always do a 90-minute check. So after 90 minutes, I would ask myself, okay, did I actually accomplish, or did this time just fly by? Was I just going with the flow? If I was accomplishing, good to go. If I not, then I need a self-intervention. I need to ask team that, hey, I am feeling like this. Do you have any suggestion, or do you think we are going good? Because sometimes we just need self-assurance. And that's the best part working in a team, that you're not on your own and every member counts. So I would say in the 9-hour whole activity, we were actually glad that we got the opportunity to meet the team members virtually before. It played an important role because we then created a WhatsApp group, had a little chat, discussed on the ideas. There were a few activities which were given to us just so that we can start coordinating fun activities, like start or think about a Netflix title, if you would say, give a name to your team, or what do you stand for. So it's just about opening the mind and brainstorming, and most importantly understanding what is the power play in the team, who actually likes to talk, who actually likes to research, who is the one who would like to come in the front, and who is the one who would just like to do the work but from the behind. So I would say that gave me a little better clarity so that I can adapt my communication on the day accordingly.
All right, that's great to hear as well. And since we both know that there are different formats, not just the 9-hour fast hackathon format, Innovation Day, but also some longer formats like innovation challenges or like hackathons that last about 2 or 3 days. There are some differences in how to approach them, right? And how to start working in such an ideation format, and how to start working with a new team that you didn't know before. Where do you see pros and cons in such a short format? Where do you see pros regarding the ideation part, regarding the elaboration part, also the pitch preparation part? And where do you see also some disadvantages compared to longer formats where you also participated in your past?
That's a good question. There are pros and cons, but I also think that more than the pros and cons, one element which clearly distinguish the success of the teams getting their best output is moderation by the organizers. After this event, which you're talking about with ENBW, I also participated in another hackathon which lasted for 2 months, and it was by one of the team members from the same team. I participated in ENBW. He's an amazing person and a really good developer. So we worked along. It lasted for 2 months. I worked for a few hours. They worked for more because that was a technical project. And eventually what we learned is we actually gave a lot of time on the implementation than the idea. And the thing I found very different in the 9-hour hackathon we did was 60% time was focused on the idea development. And we literally had, I remember, working on the screens or the prototype to present for not more than 2 hours, and that is too much as well. That is including everything. And then the time was presentation and everything. So trust me, it's about the moderation, but still the things that I feel the pros and cons for a short marathon is the first and the biggest pro I feel is, which is the need and why hackathons are so much successful, are the motivation and high energy of the participants, which I feel are the best, and it's their peak when it comes to one-day hackathon or short hackathon. In a longer one, you tend to ask yourself, you tend to get a little demotivated, you have bigger challenges, you have to deal with a lot of problems. But in one day, hey, and a lot of people can spend just one day about it, so it's okay for them. Second is the availability, of course. There can be time, there can be a lot of things. Corona just happened, a lot of things change, the external environment changes, and then we are forced to somehow not give that much of time and energy on the certain project. And hackathon requires a hell lot of energy and effort consistently, because it's not about just giving a solution. It's about giving the solution in the best way, competing with the team who are doing that at the same time. They have the same time, efforts, resources. So you have to not just give a solution which is good, it should be better at the same time.
Would you say that this pressure helps you, especially in the short amount of time, when you have such a short time frame and know that there's another team right through the next door actually, or in the next digital room, that works on the same problem, works for the same incentive or prize money or whatever, and gives you some kind of pressure? Is it a help, or is it like maybe not a help and more like a pressure?
Well, it depends on individually. I take such pressure as a motivation to get myself on top of a lot of things, to actually think also from the other side that what could be the possibilities, because there is a pressure that not only we are developing the solution but someone else too at the same time, not later. So we have to actually go out of our mind and think from a lot of perspectives. So it helps me, but at the same time, sometime when we have less time, it's difficult to cope up with that pressure for some people. At a lot of time, even I had this kind of a situation in mind that, okay, it's a time pressure, we just have 2 hours to present, things are not perfect, because obviously in such a time pressure, I don't think anyone would be happy with their effort. Everyone would be thinking there could have been done something better with more given time. But hey, it's just 9 hours, and at some time we even think the 9 hours are so much because we are working since morning and we are constantly every minute focusing on our screens to develop or work on something collaboratively. So it has a balance of good amount of time to produce something, while comparatively less time when it comes to unproductive things like stress or thinking about, okay, what's happening in the other side of room. But that's the best thing. When you have less time, you got to focus on the most important task.
And this can help you in developing the best possible solution, right?
Exactly, that helps in developing the best possible solution that one can do.
In this short amount of time.
Yes.
So I personally love stress and I love pressure as well. I can't really work well when I'm not under pressure. And as an entrepreneur, you can imagine that there's always a lot of pressure from different stakeholders, from clients, from the team, from the market, from I don't know. And I personally love working under pressure if it's a positive pressure, right? So pressure during the pandemic, for example, of course, is not the best possible pressure that I could imagine, and not knowing on how the year evolves and how the pandemic evolves. But in such a positive pressure as, for example, in a short innovation day or short hackathon, I can imagine that it also, as you mentioned before, it can help you to discover the most crucial parts of your solution and really keep a focus on that, and not focus on other maybe less important things. And this can definitely help in working on your solution. One more thing I would like to talk about is, I already mentioned it before, the current circumstances. Because what we experienced this year is, due to the pandemic, we needed to switch every format into the digital world. And I know that you also participated in the past in analog hackathons, and I'm pretty sure that you see some differences between working digitally with a remote team in an ideation format such as a hackathon or an innovation day, or working at a common place together with other people for, I don't know, 1 or 2 days. How do you see the impact that the coronavirus and therefore the need for switching everything to the digital world had on such ideation formats and on prototyping as well?
Well, I would say that when it comes to this, shift from analog or traditional one-to-one talking to the way we are doing right now, digital, there were a lot of challenges in terms of a lot of things. But I was always a person who admired technology and preferred digital over analog or traditional medium. For example, if I'll get an email and there is an option to reply over email from maybe some government authority, I would always do that. Even if they send me maybe an envelope that, okay, you can reply and send it back, I would prefer to save the effort of a human being delivering that email by me sending that technologically, especially when I know there are a lack of manpower, especially in the first world countries, to do this. So I would focus more on pros. But because I have traditionally experienced a lot of, not I would say hackathon, but challenges like that, and worked in teams, I can definitely count on the cons. So the pros I would start with is something which I started as a first tool, which was communication, WhatsApp, something like that. So the best part is, and the best beauty of digital is, that when you communicate with someone on written, the words mean something exactly, not the way it was conveyed. In front of it, if I convey something, the people coming from different cultures can actually adapt it in a different way, leading to unproductivity, loss of time, more explanation required, to an extent of emotional dilemma that how can you say that? Think about me developing something and someone saying not that great on my face, which he means that maybe we should do this and it would be look great, but it can come in different ways. So first is everything is unwritten, so everything is understandable with the same way. The second thing is in digital is that there are less emotion involved when we are communicating, so it's faster and easier for the person also who is doing it, vis-a-vis the receiver. The third thing I would say is that everyone actually has this ability to understand everything and do on their own. So while I'm working with a group live on a table and we are asked to do something or brainstorm the idea, we have a pressure, we have to actually try to understand everything and be in sync. But when you have something written in your laptop, you have the ability to search on it, to Google it, to take your time to understand the language and everything and prepare notes. Because, see, in a team, there can be people who are fast, there are people who would be slow, there are people who can understand it fast, and some people need support and a guiding hand. But after all, it's a team. Everyone plays the important role and fits in a puzzle. Now, if you give everyone the digital platform, they can use their own personal technological space to adapt to the things. So that I think these are the three beauties of using digital technology. Now the cons, which are inevitably need to be considerate, because I think the way this digital got almost removed from marketing nowadays would be next in, let's say, 10 to 20 years, the way there won't be any digital or no digital. That would be the normal way. So now if we do marketing, or a business has to do marketing, they inevitably get a website or do social promotion or social media marketing. That's not digital marketing, that's marketing now. Same way, right now we are comparing or having discussion of digital or traditional. I don't think that would be there. It would all merge in 20 years. So the cons are, which needs to be considered also in digital, are first, offline you need basically, or with the offline you need to understand a person better. You need to actually also understand the way they their body language is, they're responding to your communication, and you need to adapt. If you're just speaking while the other person is not listening, or is uninterested, or is in a trouble, or cannot understand, that makes you a person who doesn't understand communication. So I need to look at the person, I need to understand, ask question, take a feedback, and make it clear that they understand it. Because if I say something now and they don't have the ability to understand that, or maybe I don't have the ability to make the things or the words simpler for them to understand, that's a miscommunication for sure. So we need to understand that we keep our communication simple. Second is, I would say, a very big disadvantage of digital is, okay, right now we are having a face-to-face communication virtually, but this is far different from what we have in the physical world. And this barrier, this mental barrier, will take ages to get removed. People are not used to it. And there's a huge difference when one actually comes live and meets someone. There's an advantage. There are sometimes disadvantages. For some people it works good, for some people it doesn't. So it depends on individual to individual, but we need to understand and admire that there is something which is a face value. And even if we are online, we must maintain it. So we need to learn that. Third thing I would say, which when it comes to digital versus tradition, is that Justin, I believe when I communicate with someone that we always have a hidden area. So you know about me what you know, but there can be more things, which is my hidden area. Now, because of this hidden area, there can be miscommunication, there can be some expectations which are actually not something which one can fulfill. So we need to reduce that. Now, I feel that it can be done better right now. I can do that better in a traditional setting vis-a-vis a digital setting, because I can know the person, talk about more, and can also see their response, which is important in reducing the hidden area, and provide them a lot of information which they are willing to ask. Because not everyone is comfortable to type a lot of questions or to engage freely as we are, verbally. So not everyone phrases the questions really well, or would actually take the stress to type in some very, I would say, basic cautions or stupid thoughts that one would say verbally just to confirm and have a good mindset or communication. So that's a kind of a con in digital.
I see. So summarize, there are some advantages, some disadvantages, some things that we need to overcome due to the shift to the digital world, to make some disadvantages maybe to advantages in the future, and take some profit on the advantages from the digital world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that this what I said was a little lengthy, and because what I feel is I really see digital as an add-on or as a tool to communication, and not as something which sets it apart from tradition. So traditional source. So what I do is I don't see digital or non-digital. I see digital as a tool which I can use to maybe, if I can't travel to, for example, Frankfurt to your office, I can do it virtually. So I see an opportunity with the digital technology. If I cannot maybe, perhaps because of any of my condition, I cannot come to you or meet you, I can do it still digitally. So I see that as a tool rather than it being, two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks for these insights. One more question that I got for you before we head on to the questions from the community. We already talked about tools that you use for self-organization. But what I found really inspiring was how quickly you developed a digital prototype in this Innovation Day. And maybe you have some tips, some hints, some recommendations for tools on how to develop digital prototypes in such a short amount of time. This would be really interesting to know, I think.
I would give my audience a basic concept which I use and which is easily available also in Google. If you search, it's called Double Diamond. So it's basically a design thinking process. And I would say that while I was developing a prototype, what comes before prototype is that what are the things that gonna be in there. So the strategy and planning part, for which there's a very simple 4-step process. I was really glad that we were actually moderated with each step and also guided by ekipa and the provided trainer. And I was really glad that there was someone to tell us, okay, someone is telling us that okay, there's more time, there's less time, someone is telling us these are the right tools, and someone to instruct and help us to be or work in a team together. So the first thing that we did together as a team was to explore the problems and the users. So first, always it doesn't start with the own product or solution, it starts with the user. So even if we have the problem that say what are the challenges faced by people at IT at home, so related to the IT infrastructure or security, what can be the possible issues since work from home or work office has increased drastically after COVID because of the regulations. So first we try to understand who is the user, who is going to actually basically we are trying to delight, because if we are going to make a solution and we don't specify users, we are not going to delight everyone. We must make a solution which is going to make someone happy, which is going to make add a change, bring change in their life or their usual flow. So we first explored the problem by understanding the user. Second is the define stage. So once we have explored the user and the problem, third is now we're going to define the exact problems considering what we have as a requirement. So in that scenario, I can reflect that we thought about a persona who is a working mother, who is a business consultant, has limited technical knowledge. Everything for her when it comes to technology is taken care from the IT team at the office. Now she's at the home on her own while taking care of her children's too, while having a this dilemma of corona outside with negativity around. How is she going to handle the IT infrastructure on her own without much help from a person who she can actually get the laptop and say, hey, this is the problem, can you fix it, which was possible at office, not at home anymore. So we thought about the problem, we defined the solution as something which is a one-click solution to integrate and also help her give the access of her laptop to maybe the IT support at the office easily, and also help her secure the files. And that would be the biggest USP of the product. So the product becomes sellable to the companies, because security, while people are working from home and accessing sensitive data, was critical. Then the third part was which from where so this explore and define was a 60% of the whole day. We were sitting at, I remember we started working on the design at 2:30 in the afternoon, and we were under time pressure for sure, because there was a time coming soon for the presentation, and we were told, okay, this is the time you have, then we have the presentation. And we had just, what we had was something more understanding, which would help us, also to help us present that as a presentation, but there was no solution. We thought about it, but there's nothing to show. That's the actual pressure everyone actually gets, and that's why people, start working on a solution before actually doing research, because it's not about just time pressure, it's a productivity pressure too. You need to show the output, what you have done.
Combined with the right structure, right? So productivity brings you nothing when you don't have a structure behind it.
Exactly. Productivity brings nothing if you don't have a structure, which I realized a lot later on as well, in hard ways. I realized, if I reflect in my career, I also realized it a lot of times. So the third part is where we started designing solution, and here the team played a critical role, because now we knew each other. We had less time, so there was no time for bullshit. There was no time for miscommunication. We knew what we had to. We agreed on it. We came on a common understanding, and now we started making and using the best skill set. So one person who was in the business end was working on the research and numbers to show on the presentation. One person who's a technology and was exploring and working with me and telling me, okay, what is technologically possible. Me along with another person were trying to develop some wireframes which we can actually present in a presentation, which was, a few couple of hours next. So it was all very fast, and I would say we were lucky enough to get moderated and to get the required guidance, and everyone in the team fit with the right, fit in the right puzzle. Someone from the business, design, to from technology made a good combination, that we could actually, the idea we thought, we could actually deliver it. Trust me, one problem that I have understood is that you can have a great team, you can have a great idea, but if you cannot communicate it in the given time, there is no use of all the time. So the most important thing is that the idea might not be super good or great or innovative, but even if it's good and communicated in the right way, it's far better than an idea which is great but not communicated correctly. And I have seen that happening on international platforms, and I've been part of a few teams like that, and I could actually say that this is the most critical feedback or most critical point I can tell you about a hackathon, is not just the idea, but its deliverability. And the team plays the most important role. One person cannot do it. So you need to understand who can do the right thing. And one person has to, or the team in itself has to take this initiative to manage everyone. Usually there's someone who has the leadership skills and is ready to, come in front. Usually the best, usually sometimes you have two of those kind of persons, and then there is a kind of a collision between them. So I would say if someone who is moderating can take the lead, tell them and deliver and help them deliver the idea, which is the most important thing in making digital prototypes, especially for hackathons and under time pressure.
Coming back to my previous question regarding the tool point of view, I think you mentioned one tool in the beginning, but could you maybe do another quick summary of which tools would you recommend for developing fast prototypes?
Yes, so we started with Mural board. We basically had a structure and did our explore and define stage over there, which I explained. Then we go to producing design solution, for which I personally used Photoshop because I've been using it since a while. Professionally, usually in companies, when we have to produce such design solution, we use more precise UI tools like either Sketch or an online collaboration tool like Figma, which works like a mobile, which looks like a website, and you don't have to install anything. And further, which you may require to obviously test, take feedback, or scrutinize your design solutions and share it with multiple stakeholders, we use a tool called Invision. So it is quite famous in the design community. Something which easily allows you to share a link of the design solution with a click dummy if it's possible, because no longer are the days when you can show just the design. You have to show the usability, user experience. So it can be click dummy can be easily be created over there, also in Figma, and then you can give the opportunity for anyone to comment on any particular part. So start with Mural, go to a tool design tool like Photoshop or Figma, then eventually put everything in Invision and share the link with your team.
I think these are really great tips for everyone who is interested in rapid prototyping. We can mention all these tools in our show notes so that everyone who's interested in it can actually take a look at it and see if there's a good fit. Because I personally think that most of these tools you don't require specific IT knowledge for, right? So if you're interested in designing or UX design, for example, and you're willing to learn, there's a high chance that you are able to work with these tools even if you have no IT background yet. So I personally can agree on most of these tools that I also used in the past. So thanks for these great tips. Coming back to our talk and to my next part, as you know, as I mentioned before, we announced, of course, that we are going to have this talk today. And we had a lot of questions from our community who were interested in people like you, obviously, and willing to learn some things from your experience. And we had to filter some of the questions and had to choose a couple of these ones, which I would like to ask you right now, and maybe you have one or another answer on these. So starting with the first one, where do you get your inspiration from?
So I get my inspiration from the tools which are bringing change in our lives. So I usually, when it comes to developing a tool, I would go for example, in India, we have a great food delivery app called Zomato, which is being used by the daily consumer. So it's not something I know because I am a designer. It's something I know because I'm a normal human being and I am their target audience. So I usually try to take inspiration from the things that are around me and which are successful and which I am happy with, because at the end it's not about fancy graphics or creatively visually remarkable things, but it's about something very simple and helpful for the user and then on the business. So I get inspired with things around me.
All right. Do you rather work in the morning or in the evening?
As per need. There's always a question whether a person is a morning person or a night owl. In my until now in my student life, I've seen myself working in both ways, and I trust me, even I couldn't figure out what is the best for me. Sometime in night we have less disturbance, but sometime it's better to work in the morning for good productivity and high energy. So it depends on the requirement for me.
All right, and depends on your client as well, I can imagine. Coming up to the next one, which I personally think is really interesting. What is the main difference from your point of view between a good user experience and a great user experience?
Good user experience helps people reach from point 1 to point 2 easily, smoothly. But great user experience help them achieve their goals faster in a way which is not done yet. So it's innovative, new, and something that people haven't expected yet. But it's really, really simple.
So could we summarize it by saying that great user experience also inspires?
Great user experience inspires, it has innovation, and it brings a new value to your life. They were good experience, I would say, with the phone industry we had before iPhone. It was booming up. I would say Samsung, Nokia, everywhere. I mean, in India, I know at one point Nokia was the market leader. Then came Samsung. Then came phones, smartphones like BlackBerry. But as soon as iPhone came with a new experience and it focused only on the customers, it revolutionized the industry and how we interact. So they understood the future needs and they brought that kind of great user experience.
All right. Thanks for answering these community questions. Coming to our last point for today's talk, which are 6 more questions regarding the future. And I would like to ask you to just answer these questions. You can answer it more shortly or more or longer as well. Depends on you. I would just start with the first one. You have already been working with a lot of tools, right? We already talked about that today. Are there any tools that you didn't learn until today, but where you are interested in learning them maybe tomorrow?
Yes, there are definitely some tools which I'm looking forward, and I think that they are good in delighting the users. It's can't be necessarily something which is important or necessary, because we have the necessary tools. So there's a tool called Framer which helps us in building interactive prototype within minutes, and also develop some interaction animations which can help a user basically get delighted. I mean, gone are the time, as I said, where just static designs were being used to give a prototype of the work. Now, even in the business context, if you have a new idea, you need to show how it works. And to show how it works, you need to show interactivity and movement. So, such tools like Framer helps you do that fast, easy, and it is also compatible with a lot of tools like Sketch or Figma. So, I'm pretty much looking forward for learning it.
Seems like you didn't lose your passion yet to learn new things. You in your LinkedIn bio, you say that you are aiming for becoming one of the top 5% in your sector. What keeps you motivated in aiming for this goal?
What keeps me motivated is that if I will be on the journey of doing that, even if I don't uh, reach that in a short term or whenever I've planned that for 5 years. But even if I don't reach over there in 5 years, I will be still be a lot better than where I am right now, and I will be every year, every month, just because of this goal of being at the top. But being at the top has different approach and meaning for a lot of people. It can be one, having a recognition or award, maybe it can be two, monetary, it can be anything. For me, I would say it is something wherein I can build something which will uh, help a lot of people in the way that it is not done yet. So, for example, if I develop a simple website which is focused on need of, let's say, people who are unemployed and looking out for jobs and are really facing some issues, and that user interface along with obviously its business model can help people get better jobs, then I would say that I have done my work well. Because if we look out the great user experience or designs we use every day, like WhatsApp, it can't be compared with some at one point it couldn't be compared with someone who have a larger team and resources developing really amazing user experience, but it focused on the key problem, which was fast messaging at that time when internet was not super fast. So user experience is not about, I would say, just good designs, visuals, technology. We have to get out of that, and we have to come in the frame of a user, and we have to think from those problems. So coming I would say going to top 5% is not as difficult as a lot of people think, but it's not that easy as well. It needs luck, needs consistency, it needs constant improvement. But even if I don't reach over there, I'll still be better than where I am today.
Absolutely. What does the perfect team look like?
Perfect team look like, I would say it start with one person who is who would say is not technologically advanced but is willing to coordinate with everyone and do its best. So one person who is down to earth, can have any kind of skill set or different technology level, but is happy to help. One person who is ready to take the charge when it comes to communication, when it comes to presentation, when it comes to speaking for the team. So one person who is always motivated and likes to communicate actually. So one person who is a devil's advocate and has the ability to scrutinize every problem and solution, not the individual or team members, but the solution, and can think about what can be maybe something better, what can be the problems with it. And I would say one person, which would be the last member of the team, or could be this, or this attribute can be in anyone, is someone who keeps everyone together. So someone who is maybe moderating, or a friend, or knows everyone or is communicating good or ensure that everyone is communicating well. And the best thing is, you don't need four people to do this. Even two-person team can do it. But even if there's a large team but doesn't have these four attributes, which I've experienced, it's not just from my learning or what I've read in the books, but what I can reflect from my experience. If we don't have these, at least these four capabilities, it's not a team. It's just some individuals, group of individuals, a bunch of individuals working towards a goal individually. If you have these four things, there's a team.
Yeah, I can totally agree on that. I think one of the most important factors is that the team is diverse, right? And that not everyone has the same skill set, the same background, the same character as well. Because if you have a team which consists of just the same characters, 3 or 4 persons, one could imagine that this could work because they are all the same and that they think the same way. But in fact, what I experienced was that this actually doesn't work. And more diverse teams, be it the discipline that they come from, be it the background, be it the character, more diverse ones work better together actually in the end. What's your goal for the year 2021? Your personal goal?
I wish to basically complete the internship really well that I'm right now doing and learn and contribute, learn while contributing to the company. So I want a good remark from them. Second is I want to complete my master's, keeping everyone around me, my friends and professors, happy. One side I want good marks, and the other side I want to be a good friend for everyone whenever they need me. And that is pretty much for the first half of 2021, because I'll be done with March with both of these things, or maybe a little more time. Yeah. And the second half I would say is get or decide that, okay, which product or solution or thing is going to help me achieve my, that 5% of the goal, and take a decision by, doing a job or starting something of my own, or anything which I feel would give me the flexibility and where I'll be motivated enough to continue, depending upon my financials, depending upon everything that I have right now.
I wish you all the best for all your goals that you set for yourself. Next question. From your point of view, which technology will have the biggest impact in the world in the upcoming years?
Technology in education and healthcare, because I feel that the way education is expanding, but the use of technology in education is so, I would say, less right now, and it's not actually leveraged the way it can be. It would drastically change, and especially, and also in healthcare, we have seen that in hospitals, the reporting or the communication in COVID time, how much important it is for a lot of countries. Some are struggling, some are first world countries are doing well, but how critical it is. So I feel use of technology in education and technology will be revolutionizing, and would be something which would be very, very need of the hour in very soon, coming soon.
Healthcare and education. All right, I see. And the last one, Yashvir. What is your personal advice for the generation of digital natives, so for the digital generations, for our community?
Stay foolish, stay hungry, Steve Jobs. I would say that because I have been always curious, and that is, I would say, one of the reasons why I'm here, at this stage. Of course, this is not the only reason. I would reflect to a lot of people who, because of which I'm here. I got inspired with the family who have been supporting, and because of this, my dream of coming to Germany and having a good life was possible. So there can be a lot of things and reasons, but if there is one intrinsic reason for me, which I would give advice to any internet user, would be just keep looking for something better and keep wanting it, because if you would do that, then the things would change. When people actually are bored of something or need something better is when, remember the answer I gave, that it comes from external. So that's how I, from a graphic designing position to web designing, went into UI UX, because that's a need. People are looking for better UI and UX. People need better user experience design. They are not willing to take 10 steps to maybe complete a checkout process. They want it in 1 or 2 steps. And because of this need of better user experience, there are more jobs, and people like me can learn and can understand and adapt and have a better life. So just stay foolish and stay curious.
And that's a great conclusion, Yashvir. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing such great and truly inspiring insights regarding on how you are working, how your path went in the past, and what you're planning to do in the future. Thanks for sharing all these tips and hints for tools if someone is willing to create rapid prototypes, to create a great user experience as well. I think it was truly inspiring. Thanks for being our guest, and maybe there's gonna be a next time.
Definitely. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And I mean, definitely the kind of, I remember the format you had in Ekipa Hackathon to what you're trying to do with this peak by sharing a lot of insights. And that's how I got to know actually about it, by watching the videos and understanding that there's so much potential about it. And I think we, being the other side of internet users who are actually content creators, play a really critical role and enable the users, normal users, to actually share the information. So you're doing a good job, and thanks a lot for doing that.
Do you want to know more about the talk or the topic? On ekipa.de/peak, you can find every information about our episodes, guests, and topics. We will also keep you updated on our social media profiles. The link you can find in the description box. See you next time at Peak, the Innovation Talk by Ekipa.